Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to thank you for attending the Thousand Palms Canyon Road Widening Project virtual public meeting. This meeting is a time for individuals to provide comment on this project. This meeting will begin with an approximately 20-minute long presentation provided by Grant Wilson and Robert Kratzky from LSA Associates, Brett Craig from Riverside County Transportation Department, and myself, Thomas Reese. I'm with the outreach team and Ariano Associates. We'll be following up at the end with the Q&A session. Just some webinar information for you for tonight's meeting. Be sure that your volume and your speakers are on with the volume turned up. You may also call into the meeting, and you'll see that call-in information located at the bottom of your screen in that black ribbon. Tonight's meeting is being recorded for the project file, and which will also be a public record. For questions and comments, you can type your question or your comment into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen in the toolbar. You may type your question or your comment at any point during the presentation, and questions and comments will be read by the presenter at the end of the presentation. We'll take as many questions as we can in the allotted amount of time. Any additional questions that are not read aloud will be addressed in the environmental document. For your on-screen setup at home, we have simultaneous Spanish translation is available for tonight's meeting. To enable Spanish audio, click the interpretation button listed at the bottom of your screen and select Spanish. If you'd like to call into the meeting and receive Spanish translation, use the following phone number and access code. That code there is listed on screen and also provided at the bottom in the black ribbon as well. Again, English and Spanish available for call-in. To view and modify your screen preferences, use the View button located at the top right panel of your screen. From there, you can select your desired meeting setup. The purpose of tonight's meeting to provide information to the public on the proposed project, to describe the environmental review process and subsequent decision-making, and to solicit input from the public on the draft initial study, or IS, with proposed mitigated negative declaration. Submitting your comments or questions, you can do so tonight by using the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen, which will be read aloud to our panel. You can also email questions or comments to meissa@rivco.org. That's rivco.org. You may also mail your comments to Mr. Mohammed Issa, Associate Transportation Planner, Riverside County Transportation Department, 3525 14th Street, Riverside, California, 92501. Comments will be accepted through June 21st, 2021. Written comments will be addressed in the final environmental document. I'm now going to turn it over to Brett Craig to go through tonight's agenda and provide a project overview. Brett.
Thanks, Thomas. My name is Brett Craig, and I work for the Riverside County Transportation Department. And I'm the engineer on this project. And Thomas discussed the purpose of this meeting, and I'm going to go into the project overview, including the proposed improvements. Grant Wilson of LSA is going to talk about the environmental process, and we'll discuss the next steps. And please, at any time during this presentation, you can feel free to enter your question or comment in the chat function. And the next slide will get started with the project overview. Okay, the Riverside County Transportation Department proposes to widen and resurface Thousand Palms Canyon Road from Ramon Road, Washington Street to Dillon Road, totaling approximately 4.71 miles. The project improvements will take place entirely within existing roadway right-of-way and on the same alignment of the existing roadway. To the right, you can see the project vicinity map and where the project is located with respect to various cities in the 10 freeway and the Coachella Valley. Next slide, please. There's a more detailed picture of the project limits bounded by Ramon Road, Washington Street, and Dillon Road. And this road mainly serves the communities of Thousand Palms, Sky Valley, and Indio Hills, and is main route between these three communities. There's also the Coachella Valley Nature Preserve in the middle, which attracts a lot of visitors, bicyclists, and vehicular traffic. If you go to the next slide, we can talk about the existing conditions of Thousand Palms Canyon Road. It has a pavement width of approximately 22 feet, 11-foot through lanes, and 1-foot paved shoulders. There are graded dirt shoulders of varying width along both sides of the road, bounded by dirt berms. There is also a half-mile segment of Thousand Palms Canyon Road near the nature preserve, where it's a little bit wider, 32 feet wide, 12-foot through lanes, 4-foot paved shoulders, and graded shoulders on both sides. The area in the immediate vicinity of the roadway is undeveloped except for the nature preserve. The middle portion of the road was reconstructed in 2019, caused by they got washed out during storms that year. The roadway currently doesn't have a dedicated bike lane, and the roadway is in need of widening and resurfacing and other safety improvements. Next slide. So some of the proposed project improvements are we are going to widen both sides of Thousand Palms Canyon Road and resurface the top. We are also constructing a right turn pocket for southbound traffic into the Coachella Valley Nature Preserve. We'll also be constructing a left turn pocket for northbound traffic into office buildings 2,000 feet north of the preserve. We're also constructing safety edge pavement end conditions, installing rumble strips, widening paved shoulders, grading dirt shoulders and berms, installing and removing traffic signs, applying traffic striping and thermoplastic pavement markings. And this project will also incorporate a class 2 bike lane. Next slide, we can see the proposed cross section of Thousand Palms Canyon Road. This is what it will look like after construction is complete. This graphic helps you visualize the two 12-foot vehicular lanes and the two 5-foot bicycle lanes on both sides of the road for both directions, north and southbound. There's also going to maintain graded shoulders on the sides for any vehicles that are stalled. They can temporarily park there. Next slide will show an aerial view of what Thousand Palms looks like today on the top, 22-foot pavement width, 10-foot vehicular lanes, 1-foot paved shoulder, and variable graded shoulder widths. And the aerial picture below shows what the proposed improvements will look like when the project is complete. You can see we will have a 34-foot pavement width, 12-foot vehicular lanes, 5-foot bike lanes, and also 4 to 8-foot graded shoulders. Next slide. We'll talk about the project background. The scoping phase and preliminary design drawings have already been completed. The environmental phase is currently underway and is expected to be complete this summer, and LSA will talk more about that. Final design is planned to follow shortly after environmental is complete, and should be complete by fall 2021. Construction is going to begin in summer 2022. Next slide, please. And Grant Wilson of LSA Associates will continue the presentation talking about the environmental process.
Okay, thank you, Brett. So we're jumping here to the project schedule, and the project is going through project approval and environmental review, which is the current phase. The draft initial study and mitigated negative declaration, or ISMND for short, was completed in May 2021 and is currently in circulation for public review. This meeting is being held to obtain comments from the public on the environmental document during circulation. Once the circulation period is over on June 21st, the county will respond to all comments received on the draft ISMND and prepare the final environmental document. Subsequent to the project approval and environmental document phase, final design will begin and then construction will start. Project completion of these two activities is anticipated for summer of 2022. Next slide, please. The California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, requires state and local agencies within California to follow a protocol of analysis and public disclosure of environmental impacts of proposed projects. Environmental documentation for this project is an initial study with a proposed mitigated negative declaration. CEQA requires the public agency in charge of permitting the project, known as the lead agency, to conduct an environmental review. The Riverside County Transportation Department is the lead agency for CEQA on this project. Next slide. CEQA impact standards in the ISMND include no impact, where no impact was identified in the analysis, less than significant impacts, where impacts were not found to exceed the CEQA-defined thresholds of significance, including impacts reduced through avoidance and minimization measures, and less than significant impacts with mitigation, where impacts can be reduced from potentially significant to less than significant with mitigation measures applied. Robert Kratzky will now go over the environmental analysis results for the project.
Thank you, Grant. Next slide, please. These are the topics addressed under CEQA, such as air quality, biological resources, population and housing, and transportation. These are the list of all the topics that CEQA requires to be in the environmental document. Next slide. The Riverside County Transportation Department has prepared an initial study for this project and, pending public review, expects to determine from this study if the proposed project would not have a significant impact on the environment as follows. There is no impact to the following: aesthetics, agriculture and forestry resources, geology and soils, mineral resources, land use and planning, population and housing, and recreation. There is less than significant impact to the following: air quality, energy, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, noise, public services, transportation, utilities and service systems, and wildfire. There is a less than significant impact with mitigation incorporated to the following four: biological resources, cultural resources, tribal cultural resources, and mandatory findings of significance. Next slide, please. We will now review some of the frequently asked questions that we receive typically on projects of this type. First question is, how long will construction take? Total construction time will be about 3 months, with the 6 to 8 weeks of paving operations during the construction. How will the construction impact traffic? Access to driveways will be maintained at all times. Drivers can expect to travel at slower speeds near construction activities. There will be occasional flagging operation to reduce traffic to 1 lane. However, this is to be limited to construction work hours only. Construction operations will also account for emergency access. Third question is, will there be a notice before construction? All adjacent properties to the construction will be provided a notice of at least 1 week prior to the construction commencement. Next slide. What are rumble strips for? Rumble strips are road safety features installed to alert inattentive drivers of potential danger by causing a tactile vibration and audible rumbling transmitted through the wheels into the vehicle interior. What is a Class 2 bike lane? Class 2 bikeways are bike lanes established along streets and are defined by pavement striping and signage to delineate a portion of a roadway for bicycle traffic and travel. Bike lanes are one-way facilities, typically striped adjacent to motor traffic traveling in the same direction. And lastly, how is this project funded? It is funded through standard gas tax and related California Senate Bill SB 1 funds, such as vehicle registration fees. Next slide. The next step in the environmental phase of the project is completion of public circulation of the draft environmental document and accepting comments through June 21st of this year. Riverside County will then review the public comments and provide responses in the final environmental document. And Thomas will now take over for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Robert. The draft IS-MND is available for public review and can be accessed at RC Projects, that's rcprojects.org/1000-palms. That's THOUSAND-PALMS. Please contact Mr. Mohammed Isa, Associate Transportation Planner at Riverside County Transportation Department, if you have any questions. That mailing address is 3525 14th Street, Riverside, California, 92501. Phone number to use 951-955-1506. And his email address, he can be contacted at meissa@rivco.org. That's rivco.org. Comments will be accepted through June 21st, 2021. Written comments will be addressed in the final environmental document. There are 3 ways to submit your comment. Type your comment/question into the question panel of the webinar viewer during tonight's hearing. Again, that is located at the bottom of your screen. Email your question or comments to meissa@rivco.org. That's rivco.org. Or you can mail your comments to Mr. Mohammed Isa, Associate Transportation Planner, Riverside County Transportation Department, 3525 14th Street, Riverside, California, 92501. That concludes our formal presentation for this evening. I'm going to now start our Q&A session. If you would like to ask a question to our panel or provide a comment, please feel free to type that into the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen. We will receive your question or comment and read it aloud to the panel. Any questions that we are unable to get to during the allotted time during this meeting will be addressed in the environmental document. Again, if you have any questions for our panel, please feel free to submit them via the Q&A function, and I will read those questions or comments aloud to our panel.